Hello, one and all, and welcome back to League of Europe Season 7. This is Division 2, Round 5, from no other place but Monaco. You're probably not used to my voice bringing in the streamer, at least you aren't for a while now. I'm back as lead com because, of course, unfortunately, for him at least, XL Jaco has got himself promoted from Division 3 to Division 2. So he's no longer in the comms box. I'm going to be leading the way. And I guess a bit of a treat for some of you more OG League of Europe fans. We are bringing back, you saw him last week as well, but we're bringing back the old style duo here. It is myself and Mr. QVR Verstappen. Verstappen, man, it's been a long time. How you doing? How are we looking forward to tonight's race?
Hello and all, and yes, indeed, we're back with the OG duo, as you'd like to call it. I'm looking forward to this. Obviously, Jaco got himself self-promoted to Division 2, so we'll be seeing and judging how he will drive tonight. His line should help with that, so I have to look at that. Yeah, anyways, we're looking forward to it. Monaco is always a special one to commentate over and to race at for the drivers, so very much looking forward to it.
Yes, certainly a lot to look forward to. I wasn't here last week, wasn't able to make it, but we did see this incredibly tight start to the season continue to unfold. Kjorti Tiemann with a race win last week. He and Ariel Carmentelis tied at the top of the standings, 44 points apiece for those guys. Those guys just 5 points from CRL Nathan JB, who has been picking up solid points in pretty much all of the races so far. Although you have to say, I'm not going to run through the whole standings, but when you look down at Verstappen, you have to say that even at this stage, there is no runaway leader. Of course, we saw Rudy get promoted, which probably plays a part to that, but right now, you still can't remotely begin to call how the rest of this season is going to unfold.
Yeah, definitely not. There's so many quick drives into this division. Looking at Tiemann and Carmentelis obviously at the top. Carmentelis mostly in the race, and Tiemann is very good in quali. And then there's always people like Larkin, Gary, Slash, who will, on their day, obviously be there as well. So, yeah, nowhere to call this.
Yeah, certainly nowhere to call this. Monaco, of course, a very unique track in terms of, well, we all know the walls ever present around this circuit. Very different driving style, very different technique needed to be fast around here. But of course, not all about speed. We're going to see that, I imagine, on full display tonight. One thing that we have to say about Monaco is that it's a very specialised track. And obviously, we can talk about the pad and wheel imbalance, which is quite prevalent here, it must be said. But how do we think this is going to affect things? Because we have seen probably rough ideas of who's going to be at the top in quali, who's going to be coming through in the race. But you have to say at Monaco, with the different skill set required, we can't know what to expect here. Because this track is so specialised that we really don't know how the driver's going to measure up tonight.
Yeah, there's absolutely no way of telling. There's obviously people who absolutely love this track, and then there's people who would rather do anything else but this. But yeah, they're here anyways tonight, so we'll have a look how that is going to unfold. I know guys like Carmentelis and Zedeman will absolutely love this place. But yeah, I reckon some of the pad users in this division won't do that as much as them.
Yeah, certainly. You mentioned those two names, both former winners at this circuit in Division 2, Zonua in Season 2, Carmentelis in Season 3. So we'll see how those guys are going to measure up. Now, we know qualifying, as we're just going to head into now, oh, so important around Monaco. But that isn't the end of the story, not because you can overtake in the race, but because there's such an array of possibilities that can happen. 19 drivers here, which, to be honest, for Monaco, fairly decent. We've actually managed to get a good enough turn out, and I know that you in particular, you'll be fairly glad to see that, although I imagine that one gap on the grid is going to be playing on your mind. But we now look forward to this qualifying session, and I always say this is the one to watch on the calendar, because these guys all having to push their limits, because you can set it out in practice how you're going to approach this to some extent, but I think more than any other track, the way you have to approach this in the real session is wildly different to what you've experienced through the week.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, there's a lot more pressure on here in the actual session than there is in maybe a practice session where you're practicing maybe without damage as well. which is not the smartest idea, I'd say, personally. We'll have to see. And there's a lot of variation here you can do tires-wise as well. I know the mediums are a very good quality tire as well. It's something you don't see really that often. Maybe last week in Austria we sort of saw it. But I think even this week it's even more of a viable option. So the quicker drivers could try that and get their advantage on track position with that.
Well, we saw that in the Division 1 race earlier. 3 out of the top 4 in qualifying were on that medium compounded tyres. Watching Timon go over the Nouvelle chicane and decide to park it in the middle there. Not exactly sure what's happened there, but we're going to see him first up here, see how this is all going to unfold. Of course, probably the most high pressure 18 minutes you're going to see probably all season. We'll see how these guys are going to approach this. Soft tyres going on. It's going to be interesting to see who's using them just to get their eye in. We've seen that medium strategy come into play, or if they're going to push from the offset. Let's watch Timon now as he comes over the line to take a tour of the Monte Carlo circuit, over the line to get things kicked off into the first turn at Saint-Avold. They're using a bit of curb on the inside. I think it's a bit deeper than he wants it to be. Now powering up the hill through Beau Rivage, now opening up massively. Got to use as much of the track as you can, turning it in, then carry the speed through into Casino now. I get a little bit wide of the apex. This may be just a sighter for Timon. It's a little bit all over the place then as he heads it towards the Lowe's hairpin, then the tightest and slowest corner on the entire calendar, down to about 40 k's an hour, then getting right down to low speeds. And now you head it out through Portier. Again, a lot of understeer in that car. I'm not sure if he's picked up some sort of damage then throughout it as he heads through the tunnel. Doesn't look like it, but he does seem to be struggling quite a bit on this lap. We will see as they head into the Nouvelle chicane. Got to watch that wall on the inside, take as much of the curve as you can. You see some drivers that essentially cut the corner over there to back. Full commitment required. There's adamant there, and then into the swimming pool. And Timon again very cautious, it must be said. You're just glancing the wall on the exit, then heads it through Raskas and now into the final turn. And Anthony Noge now to the line, opening DRS, and Timon crossing it now. But I have to say, on a 1:10.3 for a driver that's so quick in qualifying, I don't know if this track suits him, but you have to say he seems to have treated that lap as a bit of a sighter. Gary immediately just over a second clear.
Yeah, very nervous lap from Timon, obviously on the pad, so that might play a role into that as well. The Peter goes into P2 on a 9.8. He's been promoted from Division 3 last week, first appearance into D2 this time out. And we'll see how he gets on. Krico only 2 tenths behind Gary so far.
Yeah, Krico, we know how he can be very good in qualifying. Larkin just behind his teammate, the former Division 2 champion. Certainly not out of the fight just yet as Calvin goes quickest. The 108.9 has a very, very strong banker lap, especially this track. You're going to be wanting to improve all the way throughout the session. So Calvin, very impressive early on. And again, he's another driver we know to be very good in qualifying. Boompier 1:10.6. He'll be looking for more later on in the session. Going to be quite nervy. You don't want to be knocking off the front wing at this stage in the session, or at any point in the session for that matter. But the lap times come in, despite this being a shorter circuit, with the exception of the 3,000th gap between Peter and Emily Prime. You can actually see around this track, typically, it may be counterintuitive, but the gaps may be a bit higher here than you'd usually see.
Yeah, the confidence levels across the grid will be so different across the drivers. Some will be absolutely in the comfort zone, pushing on the lap here, and others will just try their absolute best to keep it out of the wall and not pick up any sort of damage. Just looking around, is there anyone on a lap? I think with Larkin. No, Larkin's not on the lap. Can you find anyone?
It's hard to see. I see a few guys that have gone on to laps and have just backed off. Slash, I think, has just backed off a lap, or he is still going. He's just a little bit slower than what you'd really expect from a driver of Slash's caliber. Of course, we saw that win just a couple of rounds ago in Portugal. No points through the rest of the season. He dives to the pit lane. Funky Chicken invalidates on his next lap. He's going to try and go again. So it is a fairly cagey start. And who have you pointed out there, Verstappen?
Nathan JB. He was on a quick lap coming through the middle sector. Let's look at the time. He goes up into P2, 8 thousandths ahead of Gary.
Yeah, McLaren front row as it stands, but still just over 5 minutes into the session. A lot more to come, that is for sure. But yeah, Calvin, you have to say, an incredibly strong lap. He's just switched to the medium tyre in the pit lane. Interestingly enough,
Gary.
Gary improves, goes second, so he puts another lap on those tyres. This is one of those tracks where it's kind of like driving in the wet at a lot of other circuits. You want to just, it's so confidence based around here that even though it may seem, for the most part, counterintuitive to just do laps and laps and wear the tyres out, that's not going to have that much of an effect. And really, it's so important to get the mileage in a sense, so you have as much running as you can, because getting that confidence up is so important. So Gary, I think, is using that and just getting as many laps on those softs as he can in this early stage in the session.
Yeah, I definitely think that's what he's doing. It's yeah, I think he's had a cooldown lap in between the laps to not completely waste his ERS and the tires. It's, watching Tiddles go around the swimming pool section now. Very nervous lap whatsoever as well. Have a look how he gets across towards Anthony Noj, and now into the final corner as he jumps over that curve. Surprised me quite a bit. 111.0, he'll be definitely looking to improve from that.
Yeah, certainly. So, Monaco treating certain people differently. I'm going to keep half an eye on Calvin, though. He isn't on his lap just yet, but he's gone out on mediums. We've seen a very strong banker lap. Only man into the 108s, which for Division 2 standards, banker lap, very, very strong. He's going for mediums. Is he confident that he can improve on that time and what, to be honest, with his borderline D1 pace, you have to say, putting down that kind of time. Forza Brendan's come over the line, invalid, 109.1 though, so a good solid lap would have put him into P3, but of course, invalidation, that will count for naught. Jaco, I was keeping an eye on him, of course, his Division 2 debut, well, of course, not overall, he's won a championship in Division 2, but making his return to the division after a spell in D3. Not a representative time though, he'll be looking for more. Carmentalist is out there though, of course we know this man loves this track. I think he's a two-time LOE winner around Monaco, but he gets very slightly through the back, he's in the wall, and he's out the session, oh my word! Carmentalist! We've called him the Monaco Master, and wow, the car looked so nervous. Out of to back, we saw it, and then through the beginning of the swimming pool at Louis Chiron, drops the car, and the man that many were considering one of the favourites for tonight is in the wall in qualifying, and he will be relegated to the back of the grid. This is unbelievable.
I can't believe I was just seeing. Sidemite goes up into P11 on the mediums, 110.6. Yeah, that's such a surprise. I didn't expect that. The bit I looked on board with him, it looked quite nervous already, so it must have not been completely comfortable, I guess.
Yeah, that is an absolute shock. Early on then, Carmentalist, of course, still early days in the grand scheme of things, but he will have been hoping for so much more from this session, that is for sure. So, a lot of work to be done for Ariel Carmentalist at this stage in qualifying. So we're still looking at then for more lap times to come in. I actually see Zerma's parked there in the red build. That might be Gary actually. No, that is Zerma who's just parked at the side of the track, but he's just getting out of the way. So we kind of have a look then. I believe one of the cars just somewhere further along the track there. Peter, that was the car I was looking for. He is out there at the moment, fairly quick, but he does hit the wall on the exit of the swimming pool. Looks to have somewhat got away with it though. Now heading into Anthony Nogier, then opening it up, then traction, very aggressive onto that throttle, spinning the rear wheels, but he does come over the line. It is P5 on a 109.6, some 7/10 off the top. That's immediately pipped by Emily Prime, and there's another improvement there. That's Timon with a much better lap, a much improved 109.3, but we're already more than halfway through and we still haven't seen that time from Calvin Topt. So it has been a very cagey session so far, and a lot of improvements have been held back at this stage. Larkin, I know he doesn't exactly love this track, but he's going to come to the line now on an improvement. Set a lap on the mediums, goes 8th, 109.6. So we are seeing the times, the depth of the session beginning to improve. Funky Chicken is just behind Larkin, P9 at the moment for the Mercedes man. So the times are starting to come in now. Boomkia to the line does not improve, not really representative. Kariko to the line goes fastest on a 108.7. That's a very, very strong lap. So Kariko goes right to the top on a 108.7. Still Calvin second on a 108.9. And again, he's gone out for the second time on that set of mediums. Now, we've seen that time on the softs, but you must think, for him to go out on the mediums twice, he must be adamant that he can improve on that time.
You would think so, yeah. He must be very comfortable about his pace. Another lap in being put by Excel Zuidema. He improved slightly up into P10. Not the pace I think he's looking for at the moment, but we'll see about that later on. Nolan slightly improves to P11, and one of the Mercs, I think that's just Jekyll starting his lap.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with everything. The time's now beginning to come thick and fast in traditional Monaco fashion at this stage. So let's see if there's anything more to come from the rest of the drivers. There's Coxey to the line. He goes 1:10.5. Boumpier is behind him now, finally improving. Goes 10th, 1:09.705 for the Ferrari man. So he puts himself just inside of that top 10. Of course, we'll see some of the more representative times further down the line. Where some of these guys have been holding back for mediums, we will see. There's a few yellows on the track. Don't think it's anything really serious, as we're still looking, as I've just seen Nolan go straight over the Nouvelle chicane, as you'll sometimes see on drivers trying to get round the track or back to the pits. It's saying he's 1.6 seconds up, but obviously invalid. That would be fairly inconceivable at first two sector times. Tebos over the line, 1:10.4, goes only 14th at the stage, so he'll be looking for more throughout the rest of the session. Slash has gone back out on mediums. Typically, you may see the drivers, as you said, some of the faster drivers, the guys that are more confident about their pace, going out on those mediums. Calvin is one, but he has just invalidated going over the swimming pool. I'm not sure how fast of a lap it would have been. Calvin, though, is going to go to the pit lane regardless. And you have to say now, with 2 runs, mediums, it's still saying there's 0 laps up, but he's definitely done 2 runs on mediums now. We'll see, but it's going to become harder and harder for him to really get those times down. Nathan JB is another driver that has gone out on a set in the mediums. The other McLaren, 1:09.2 at the moment, has been very consistent near the front of the field pretty much all season, but he gets out of shape just about, keeps it out of the wall. And a Nouvelle chicane now heading in to that last sector, but he is 7/10 down, so that time is not going to be improved at this stage in the session. I think Jekyll is going through on mediums. He is 1:09.8 as it stands at the moment, so we are looking for times, but a lot of these laps are just falling off the rails, as we see so often here. Just trying to keep it clean, but often unable to be done. Forza Brendan is out there though, 2/10 up at the moment. I think he was on a much better lap that was invalidated earlier. He's just trying to get one on the board with just under 5 minutes to go in the session. Runs it deep through Razkas, keeps it out of the wall. Now to the final turn. Anthony Noge powers to the line now. Ariel Forza Brendan will cross the line and go to P5. It is a good lap in the end, 1:09.2. But we have seen the times really struggle to come down. The question is, though, Creco's on that pole position, 1:08.7. Calvin, though, you suspect it's going to be softs this time. The McLaren has looked very confident all the time, but now you sense with the soft tyres now fitted, he's going to go for pole. Could Creco hold on to it? Right now, is there anyone, though, besides maybe Gary, that can topple the pace? Right now, it doesn't seem as anyone else in the session has an answer to those guys.
It definitely doesn't look like. I think about the top 4 or 5, they seem to be quite clear of the rest of the field. But there might be some guys who have not set their representative times just yet and have a lot more in the tank. A few guys are going out on mediums, and both the Mercs are Nolan / Coxey. They're all out on the medium, so interesting strategy choices here already. As just see Slash without a front wing here.
Slash, I do just cut to, he is just going around without a front wing in the Williams. Jaco is doing a lap on the mediums. That's a fairly decent lap, actually. Goes 8th, 1:09.6. So he's looking to try and gain that strategy advantage for the race. Of course, one of the main things that we haven't talked about that affects races here at Monaco is that traffic in the race, because as we know, overtaking here, it's unlike any other circuit. It is so difficult to get past the car without damaging your own car. So really, a lot of these guys, their priority is going to be to try and get as long as possible, because we see it all the time in league racing. Traffic defines the race, and I think we may see more of that tonight, because if you look at, I'm going to use an example here, that last race that we saw in Division 2 back in Season 5 here, where Dylan essentially just had a free pass to the win because of the way traffic played out. So it can depend on your strategy, it can depend on your approach, but realistically those slower cars getting in the way will have a big impact on this race, more than likely.
Yeah, definitely so. It's so difficult to pass around here. Obviously, other tracks you might be able to just get by, but this is just almost impossible. Looking at Ariel Nolan, he's on the lap now. He's coming through Raskas. He's on the mediums. Let's see if he can improve. Currently got a 109.9. Doesn't look like he's going to go near the top. He's not improved, actually. He's 5 tenths down in his lap.
Yeah, not what he would have been looking for, that's for sure. XL Gary is on a great lap, though. He's nearly 3 tenths up, heading into the last sector through Razkas. Keeps it nice and clean. Anthony Noge, how's the final corner? He keeps it nice and clean as well. No wheel spin through the exit. And is this going to be provisional pole for Gary? Yes, it is! By 800ths of a second, XL Gary to the top of the timesheets. But Kriko is improving. Kriko by 700ths up in that first sector. We've got to keep an eye on these pole contenders there with less than 2 minutes to go in the session. I think there's still a lot more to be seen, but let's see how this is going to unfold. Kriko, a lot of understeer, just about keeps it out of the wall, but that time has slipped. He's just 1,000th up now, heading out the swimming pool. Little tap on the wall, gets away with it. Now to Ratscast, goes a bit deep, has this last half of the lap cost him here as he comes out to the line now, opens the DRS, plants the throttle, but is the scruffy into the lap going to cost him just, oh my word, 9,000ths of a second in it. And we saw those errors then. Kriko, he had a storming start to the lap, but to back the swimming pool Razcast, it all ends up, and in the end that 9,000ths of a second difference all in those corners, that's going to be a gut punch for Kriko. He just misses out on provisional pole, but he may well have another chance.
Yeah, I think he can just about get around the track one more time. We'll have a look around the drivers. Is there anyone as both Sediment and Nolan have retired in the pits? I think Tibbles is on the lap. He come across the line. Only P15, unfortunately. One of the McLarens has come across. That is Calvin starting another lap. Slash is starting another lap as the clock is running out. I can't find anyone as of right now. One of the Alfa Romeos, actually. Is that Simon? No, he's also
starting a lap.
Yep. They're all just gearing up for the final run, and it'll be very interesting to see if they can improve one more time.
So let's see how this is going to unfold. Kriko, I mentioned, he is just taking a cool down lap. He's actually going to the pit lane, so he is giving up on that hunt for pole position then. That's going to be his involvement in this session. Bumpier is well down on his time, so he will not be finding an improvement at the end, but he will just about make it over the line. So now let's see how the rest of this is going to unfold. Peter goes into 6th position then in the second Aston Martin. They run 3rd row at the moment, and all 3rd row. I think that's Funky Chicken. Has he just coming out through the last corner now? Jekyll's over the line 10th. Funky Chicken a few tenths up on the lap to the line. Crosses, goes 4th. That's a very good lap from RL. Funky Chicken right in the death. Pushes his way up there. Calvin to the pit lane. So at the moment it's looking like a Gary pole position. Is there anyone else that can get in the way of that then? Timon is not on a representative lap. Bumpier is still pushing. Larkin is out there at the moment, but can anyone topple that? Cox has gone out on mediums, understeering. Gary goes quicker again. 108.6. Is anyone going to be able to top that? Larkin is slightly improving, but not by the margin that he's going to need then. Timon, as I mentioned, backed off. Bumpier is down, so we're just waiting for Larkin to cross the line. Can he push himself up the order just a bit? Yeah, he goes into the top 10, 109.4. Gary dominating the end of the session. I think Kriko and Calvin will both be kicking themselves, but about Monaco, it's all about delivering when it matters, and in the end, XL Gary, but a 108.6 goes to the top. It's all about putting it together under pressure, and Gary is delivered. He starts in the most important pole position of the entire season.
Yeah, and just to mention as well, no one inside the top 10 is on the medium tyre, so everyone is going to have to start on the softs, and we have no outliers there. At least it's the top 10 anyways. So that's going to be an interesting race up ahead of us with no medium runners there, like in D1.
Yeah, we saw that dynamic in Division 1. This race is going to be very different in the nature in which it plays out. So that's going to be very intriguing to watch. Timon's car is getting wheeled into the pit lane, which is why we are still waiting for the session to end officially. But that is all the running done with. Gary didn't need to do that last lap in hindsight, but of course he would have wanted to get that security anyway. And he does secure a pole position with Kriko alongside him. Calvin's banker lap good enough for P3, but I think he would have wanted more. Funky checking, great last improvement, goes fourth. Nathan JB and Forza Brendan on that third row from Peter and Timon, the championship leader. Then behind that, Emily Prime Larkin rounds out the top 10, locked onto softs for those guys. Free choice of tyres for everyone else. Boompier from Jekyll, the leading median runner in the end, then just ahead of Zerma. Ariel Nolan is behind that from Coxey, Tebos, Slash, Scream, and Car Mentalist, the former Monaco winner, down at the very rear of the field. So he is going to try and work his way through, but of course so difficult to do at Monaco. Let's see how this is going to evolve though, because with everyone locked onto softs, they won't get much distance on those tyres, and that's when traffic from those guys outside the top 10 is going to play a role today.
Yeah, definitely. Some of the, if say someone in like P5 or P6 doesn't have the pace to keep up with the leaders though, they can manage to break away, and that will create the gaps. Especially if they're struggling to manage the tires, as the softs, they like to overheat. They aren't very good on wear either. So be interesting if they can hold on for as long as they need to.
Yeah, certainly. So let's see how that is going to unfold. We are just counting our way, and we can see what the strategy is going to be like outside the top 10, but I think we should be expecting medium majority from those guys. The soft's not a very good race tyre. Maybe some guys will go for the hard. We will see as we now count down towards the Grand Prix. Of course, we're going to take them round a lap of the Monaco circuit as Red Bull AlphaTauri on the front row. Gary locking down that pole position. And there is the grid, as you can see there. Pretty much as we anticipated, Verstappen just in pretty much even split in the field. Top 10 on those softs, and everyone, literally everyone outside the top 10 opting for that medium. So we are going to see essentially a divided strategies, a very clear divided strategies though. No one outside that top 10 willing to deviate from the norm there.
Yeah. Starting on the mediums, there are a couple of things you can do. I reckon if you take them as long as you want to, because I think they go almost the entire race. There's not a lot of wear in those mediums. You could take them into the softs. But however, they do like to drop off around, say, lap 15 to 20. They do start to feel quite bad. And you could maybe see some drivers opting for the hards and try and get some track position because of that.
That was the winning strategy in Division 1. So let's see how that is going to play out. 39 laps. It is a grueling race. And of course, we can't of course rule out the possibility of potential safety cars. I know that the safety car settings have been changed for this race, and understandably so. We will see though. Gary from Creco, that's how they're going to come round to the grid. Of course, very, very short run heading into Saint-Avold, so very difficult to get the jump. And Gary, with that inside line as well, will be looking to make it count with the run off the line. Creco will join him on the front row. Calvin and Funky check in second row. Before we get started, I'm going to come to you. This is the first time we've done this in a while. To you, Mr. QVR Verstappen, 19 drivers all in front of you. Who do you think is going to be crossing the line and taking that checkered flag first after 39 laps?
I think Gary's going to take this one. Ahead of, I'm going to say Funky Chicken in second, and J. Cole in third.
Well, let's see. I'm anticipating a return from J. Cole through the field. Let's see then as we build up to the Monaco Grand Prix, round 5. We have 5 lights. Long haul, but we're off the grid in Monaco. Great reaction time from Creco, but the launch isn't so good. He gets wheel spin. Gary holds the lead. Inside Calvin looking for P2 then. They go parallel through the exit, but that is the momentum just about. With Creco, they run side by side on Beau Rivage. The field filtering through now. Looks fairly clean for the moment as they head it through Macedon. First time with 39. In the Grand Prix, they run pretty much single file at the moment then. Side by side behind it's Jaco and Zedema. Jaco, great start. Getting the jump on Zedema. Leading medium runner, but he almost goes into the back of Larkin and then Zedema trying to come back at him. Now towards the Lowe's hairpin, and they check up in traditional Monaco style. Then the Concertina effect coming through then, side by side to the hairpin. One of the Ferraris getting pushed out by Zedema, priming behind then on the softs, losing ground. They all checked up there and now accelerating away through the tunnel. Not sure if there's any damage picked up through the back there, but Jekyll and Zedema getting the jump. Prime slipping back. Gary didn't get the best start, but did what he needed to do. He leads Creco by 3/10. Calvin slipping back. Fairly clean off the start. Has there been any bumps and scrapes further down the field though?
I think one of the horses got damaged. It might have been Coxey, I think, as he is dropping down the field a long while. Yeah, he's
Ooh.
completely lost the front wing now. For it to back, I think. So that's unfortunate to see. I think Nolan might have damage as well, but I'm not too sure. Yes, he is. He is going in as well. So both Haas cars without any sort of clean getaway here. In the meantime, at the front we have Gary and Creco completely broken away from Calvin. Second is the gap already.
Yeah, of course, DRS not powerful around here, but you'll still want to be keeping within that range. Creco's in a good position to apply pressure on Gary. A lot of work to do for Calvin early on. He's just trying to get settled in P3 at the moment from his teammate Nathan JB running fourth at the moment. So they all filter their way through, but things spreading out near the front. It's going to be interesting to see how these softs are going to hold up, though. Jaco is stacked up behind Larkin. He runs 10th place as the leading medium runner. You predicted the podium for him. Let's see how he's going to approach this. He certainly put himself in a great position just based off that start. So everyone looks to try and settle in there. It's not about gaining places early on at Monaco. It's about getting into that race rhythm. So important around this circuit. But they all run through then nice and steady at the moment. It's all going to be about keeping it between those walls, of course, early on. Up at the front, though, Calvin has managed to pull back on Creco. Creco just losing that bit of time, not quite on Gary's rear wing anymore, but he is looking very comfortable. Gary in front, Calvin fastest lap, though. Gary, he snatched that pole position, but early on you can already see he's maybe not quite as comfortable in that race pace. Creco is all over him, looking already searching for a way through, but we know at Monaco, getting through on a car that is not making mistakes, Gary just has to keep it clean, and the AlphaTauri getting through is going to be increasingly unlikely. Gary has to keep it between the walls here. He's under pressure, but at the moment Creco just sitting there in second, then everyone biding their time for later on in the race.
Yeah, another one who is all over the back of the car in front is J. Cole. I've been looking at him for the last half of the episode. Larkin is not as quick as him, as he gets a bit of a wide run through Porche. J. Cole's on the ERS, but I don't think he's going to be able to get through towards the Nouveau chicane, even though he is that close. It's Monaco. There's no way through. Almost no way, I should say.
Yeah, Nouvelle chicane, it's such a tight chicane, so narrow, it's almost impossible to fit two cars through there. J. Cole, I think, is going to play this quite sensible. He knows Larkin very well. Those guys running completely in tandem at the moment. Peter, already, as Creco has gone in early, as is Funky Chicken. Now, was there damage, or is this going to be a crazy undercut? Then you mentioned the mediums can go almost the entire race. As Yellow Wall's going on, the front wing, though, is being prepared. So Creco has gone into the wall. Funky Chicken, though, is taking a regular pit stop, so that's a strategy to really look out for. Really unfortunate for Creco, who looked so impressive early on, but Funky Chicken going for that undercut. He'll be stretched on those mediums, but they may still be able to make it. He may well get traffic later on in the stint, but this is a strategy from Funky Chicken. I'm very excited to see how it works out.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be an interesting one, at least. He should get an undercut on a couple drivers, though. He might have felt he was quicker than some of them ahead. Let's see how it plays out. Jacob still onto the back of Larkin there on the exit of Porche, but is not going to get through once again. I say it's just no way through. Prime is holding up a little bit of a train in behind as well, as his softs are not the race tire to be on as of right now.
Yeah, of course. You can already see that overlap in terms of performance. Jekyll has been hounding Larkin all the way through, and Prime not exactly making an impression amongst the medium runners. So you're already seeing that dynamic begin to shift. Forza Brendan has gone in, Larkin has gone in. So let's see how this is going to work out then. Also behind is Prime. Now let's see. It's going to be no damage pit stops. So out of the pits comes Forza Brendan. Let's see where Chicken is going to emerge. I think he was just in front of Forza Brendan, or at least very close to the Aston Martin. It is medium hard Larkin and then medium Prime. So let's see how this is going to unfold then. Funky Chicken will just about get the jump on Forza Brendan. Brendan has the inside lane, but not the momentum, and through. Funky Chicken does hold on to that place from Forza Brendan. Let's see how this strategy is going to work out. They've got 9.5 seconds clear air to just drive into, but I think what we're going to see there is maybe some reactional tactics from the rest of these soft runners. They'll have been aware of the pit stops, they'll see the brakes in the train, and the question is now, are they going to try and react and counter those pit stops, or stay out, go for the theoretically fastest strategy? Do you think maybe they're going to go for coverage, just play it safe and make sure they're not losing track position? Because at Monaco, track position is everything.
Yeah, I think they're going to cover this off quite easily. If someone like Funky Chicken would be into traffic very soon, then you could maybe make an argument for staying out quite a while, but I don't see the reason to do that right now. Calvin is in, Gary stays out, Navy
Oh, they're
GD is
stacking.
double stacking.
Well,
That's a weird call here.
that must be just a communications breakdown with the McLaren guys. I'm not sure why Nathan JB would just elect to stay out. He has got a wing fix, that's probably
Oh,
why. Because he's been forced into that then. So now we see that getting
Jacob's
that wing
damage.
change. Jaco has damage then. So just behind...
Think.
We'll have a look at that then. He's got Zanima all over him. Hard to really tell visually, but you can see how much he's struggling then. He covers the inside line and towards Mirabo. The damage isn't visible, but it may be not enough to be picked up by the game. So he runs just in front of Zanima. Yellow's on the track then. That's Larkin. So Larkin off at T1. He's going to be still in the race, but masses of debris. No front wing. He's going to have to drive the entire lap without a front wing. And we've already seen a driver that rarely makes mistakes already come a cropper in this race. So into the wall was Larkin, a full lap with no front wing. That hopefully doesn't put off Nolan too much. He's coming towards him, but Larkin, we said he doesn't like this track, and at the moment then it's proving to be almost the worst thing. Whereas Scream is out the race, heading out of the Nouvelle Chicane. Yellow's around. Let's see how this is going to unfold. And Gary takes the opportunity to dive to the pit lane, understandably. Let's see how he's going to come out in relation to the rest of these guys, like Calvin, who's just in front of Funky Chicken. It's still Yellow, so I think Scream's car is going to be cleared without any sort of safety cars then. But now, as Gary is going to look to re-emerge, he'll be praying that he's still in front of the McLaren of Calvin. So let's have a look at this here. It's going to be very tight indeed then. Gary trying to get up to speed then. Calvin's going to go the long way around. Can he get the jump on the Red Bull then? Out of the pit lane. Gary holds on to the race lead by some half a second then, but now it is oh so close. He didn't gain in the end from Scream going out. Very unlucky for Scream in the end, but he is out of the race as it stands. So Gary, Calvin, Funky Chicken, Brendan. That seems to be the fight for the net lead. Creeko is trying to get towards these guys, so he's already with that big undercut. Despite the front wing change, he's now just about with these guys. Time and trying to go with it. That's looking like that early fight amongst the front of the field. But one thing that Gary has now in his favour, it seems to have worked out because now he has those fresher tyres. He can push now and try and get away, but the thing is, the faster he gets away, the faster he's going to chase down those medium runners. They're not going to be that much quicker, but those medium guys are going to be staying out a long time, and you suspect that Gary and the rest may well get up to these guys. We've got to keep an eye on that gap, though. That's going to be a major dynamic in the way this race plays out.
Yeah, I think Jacob having damage, I'm pretty sure he has now. He's not pressurizing Peter. He's on basically all softs, and I think I saw him smacking the wall into turn 1 there as well. It's going to cause an interesting dynamic, because obviously this medium terrain is going to go slower and slower than you'd normally expect it to go. So these guys are going to hit a lot of traffic, the guys like Gary and Calvin. And that's going to really hold them up a lot, I reckon.
Let's see how that's going to unfold. 7.3 seconds is that gap, so let's see if Gary is going to chase that down. Of course, it may not be in his best interest to chase that down, but right now he looks fairly comfortable in just maintaining that front position in the train. Calvin just trying to keep in DRS, but he does have slightly older tyres. Funky Chicken with that big undercut we saw has gained him slightly in terms of track position. As we see a car going off, as Coxey letting cars through, in fact, then at the chicane, just trying to keep out of the way. Already a lap down. The race has not played out in his favour one bit. So at the moment they all run through it nicely in tandem. Jaco is damaged, if any, as Peter does come in from the lead. So he'll be looking to try and re-emerge with fresher tyres, try and get towards that net leading train. So Jaco now leads the race on track. His damage, if any, is very minor, but you are going to see these guys probably getting held up slightly, and Gary has caught a full second on the last lap, so it seems an inevitability as he slides to Santavot, holds onto the car, but the rate that Gary is catching, well, 1 second a lap, 6 laps from now he's all over him, and that's when this fight for the lead could really get spiced up.
Yeah, we'll see how that one unfolds. Everyone just filtering through as of right now. Peter's come out right behind Prime, so I don't think the overcut for him has worked. The Scream has left the station out as well. Nolan's in once again. This is a peculiar strategy, I should say. He maybe got damaged again. Yeah, I think he does. He has a front wing change and goes onto the mediums as Bumpy picks up a time penalty in the front train in third place, yes.
Yes, certainly. So he is going to be suffering, you'd imagine, relative to Carmentalist and Slash behind him, of course. He's between two drivers that rarely pick up penalties, so we'll see how that is going to unfold. The rate of gaining for Gary seems to be amplifying here. He's now a full second and a half at least on this lap, so this may be coming sooner than we anticipated. Forza Brendan has gone to the pit lane, so as the Aston Martin picked up damage here. Let's see, there's no way he would have made that pit stop out of choice, and there is the front wing. So Forza Brendan, a man that looked to be in that leading fight, now has that front wing fix, re-emerges. There's no telling how this race is going to unfold from now, but that's a major blow for Forza Brendan, of course. Picking up damage, especially early in a stint, is so punishing here at Monaco, and you see it now. Brendan then, from 14th, he's not the first car to pick up damage in this race, and dare I say it, Verstappen, with still nearly 30 laps to go in this race, he may not be the last either, and this race could evolve in ways we could never have expected.
As Prime and Peter
inside
one another. Not sure what's going on here. Might have someone hit the wall and then they ghosted and then probably ended up inside one another. As Prime is looking towards the inside. Not a place to make an overtake if you are not completely on sight, and he backs out of that one.
Yeah, you can't come from distance. Prime was looking though. That was one of the stranger battles. I actually thought for a second that Prime had disconnected, but no, his car is he is still fine. He is still within the lobby, but of course does drop behind Peter in the end on track. Peter with the better tyres, he'll look to try and get towards that leading fight. Timon has slipped back a few seconds, now nearly 4 seconds distance to Krico in front. They all begin to stack up behind. Of course, we've seen that gap open up in the train for Brendan, but they are all converging then. Gary looks to be going at his own pace there. There's no real compelling reason for him to go extremely quickly right now, and he's just controlling the race. Calvin is just sitting in behind. Really, this is just a game of cat and mouse. It's a waiting game between all these guys. They can push all they want, but realistically, you have to say that it's not really to any of these guys' advantage to push at this stage. Gary doesn't want to catch these guys in front too soon. Calvin, Funky Chicken, Krico, they don't want to risk too much, so at the moment, I wouldn't say any of these guys are running at their full potential, but as it stands right now, it looks like they're just running the race as it goes. Gary, Calvin, Funky Chicken, Krico, as it stands, they just look to be going about their business, and as I said earlier, there's no compelling reason for these guys to drive all out at this stage.
No, definitely not. And another thing that risk, if you do push full out, you risk those penalties. We just saw Peter popping up for a second penalty of the race already. He's already on 6 seconds. If the train stays this close and Gary decides to run at his own pace, and maybe a slower pace that he maybe like, and he has no penalties, that might come into his own advantage and have the guys in behind just bunch up and lose more positions due to the penalties they get.
Yeah, of course. It's going to be interesting as well to see how these medium guys, these medium starters play. I was seeing Carmentos, he's getting very close to the boot here. Of course, showing a lot of race pace but not able to use it then. That's what a bad qualifying can do to you. Of course, we saw Carmentos stacking it in qualifying and they left himself so much to do, and he is at the moment stagnant, unable to move from the rear wing of Bumpy at the moment. Jaco, his pace is still strong enough to keep a comfortable lead from Zaunima. These guys are, of course, both typically very strong at Monaco. They run 1 and 2 at the moment. That gap, though, is still coming down. Gary has opened up to Calvin just slightly, 1.3 seconds, another 1.3 seconds to Funky Chicken. Krico has, dare I say it, looked to be the fastest man all night in this race, but obviously that wing damage earlier really set him back, but he looks to be the man on the move. He's all over Funky Chicken then. He has some, not better tyres, but you have to say Krico, his race pace looks so strong, but obviously we saw the damage, and race pace means nothing if you're stacking it in the wall. So Krico, he looks very quick, but he's been disadvantaged, and he's going to try and work his way through it, but of course he cannot put it in the wall again.
No, definitely not. Damage is so costly here. But I'm not too sure if Jaco has damage. Sometimes I'm thinking, well, he's very slow and Zedem is over him. And then other times he is quite clear and he's having good pace. So I'm not too sure what's going on here. So Brendan has retired in the pits. Not too sure why. There's still a lot of points on the table, I reckon. But that's his decision at the moment. Yeah, just filtering through as of now. Peter is also on a good pace at the moment, actually. He's caught Timon, who is quite dropped off from the lead pack a lot. He was about 2 seconds behind Krico at some point. He's now almost 6 seconds behind, so he's not pushing whatsoever.
Yeah, at the moment, just trying to preserve that car. I think Peter, who is pushing considerably harder, I think that's reflected in the penalties. His Prime does just that, picks up a penalty of his own. 6 seconds now for both of those guys at this stage. Peter
Oh,
seems to be pushing very, very hard. Timon gets offline, and now Gary's gone through on Slash. So Slash has gone to the pit lane, but you can see here Timon all over the road, and it goes sideways out of Razcast. Peter's looking at him, and in the end, Timon just looked disturbed that entire time. There was contact between them. In the end, Peter gets through. Prime retires in the pit lane again. Not exactly sure why you would do that at this stage in the race. He did have damage, but I mean, he was still potential points on the cards. He does retire from the race. Timon we saw losing out. Now he has Nathan JB all over his rear wing, looking for any which way through. So Nathan trying to follow through on those mediums. Can't get through for the moment, but these gaps are opening up. But Peter is one guy we've got to keep our eye on. Yes, he does have penalties. Yes, that's going to compromise him, but he is still running very nicely. Great pace. He does clip the wall through Portier. Just holds on to it. Peter, dare I say it, there is no man besides maybe Krico that is pushing as hard in this race as Peter is, and you are beginning to see that come against him. Then I think Larkin has gone off again in what is continuing to be a nightmare race for the Alfa Romeo. He recovers the car, but I think very quickly as he approaches being a lap down, this race is quickly becoming one to forget for the former champion.
yeah. In the meantime, Slash, who's pitted, he's onto hards. This is what I was talking about earlier. He was the fifth car in that train. He had a penalty. By staying out and trying to go to softs, he's just going to lose more and more time. He's going to try and get track position this way and go into the hards and hopefully undercut the other medium runners here.
Well, let's see if anyone else is going to follow on that strategy. They have already stayed out a few laps longer. Dare I say it, they may be stretching to softs. So we'll see that strategy, but you'd imagine Slash, with much, much fresher tyres, should be able to get that jump. And of course, as we said, track position is everything here. Nolan picks up a time penalty and another nightmare race for him. It's really him, Larkin, Tibos, Coxey. The race has gone badly wrong for all of those drivers then. Everyone else within the points, so just a somewhat clean race heading for points at this stage. At the moment, J. Cole leads Zernema. J. Cole still running fairly nicely. Zernema following him bits. Boom Unit's beginning to struggle, and Gary chasing that gap down, but again, fairly steadily as it stands right now. He's able to maintain that gap somewhat to Calvin, and Funky Chicken is the one that's struggling. Krico looks the faster driver, but of course, it's Monaco. He cannot quite get through as it stands. Commentalist, though, looks fairly desperate to try and get through on Boompier, but you need to get great exits out of those critical corners, like, for example, Portier, like Anthony Noge, to try and get those runs then, or the car in front to make a mistake. Commentalist is trying to set a Boompier then, but you can't come from far back, really, at Monaco. You have to get alongside to make a move, and at the moment, Boompier is just parking the car. At the moment, Nathan JB further back is looking at Timon. We saw Timon struggling. He's into Masseny on the inside then. Better will-to-will contact between them. Through goes Nathan JB, or does he? Timon trying to hold it down the inside. Nathan JB, does he get through? Timon's going to fight it back. Locks it all up into Mirabel. Forces Nathan JB all wide. And that's a feisty battle between those two. He was looking at the inside, Nathan JB. These guys are technically in the title fight in terms of points. And you saw them really go at it. And Nathan JB with a feisty move at Masseny, and you have to say that Timon was not having any of it. Straight away back at Mirabel. Maybe not the cleanest battle, but certainly one that emotion behind it. Timon does get the place in the end. Nathan, I don't think it's going to be happy with that. He'll try and go again. Timon, though, his pace, I have to say, is remarkably slow. He is just taking it easy. Does he not have damage? It's hard to see. There's no visible damage, I don't think. But
in the chat, there was someone saying that he has got damage. I reckon it was from that battle with Peter. That was not the cleanest either, I'd have to say. So he'll be compromised a lot at the moment. He's lost about a second and a half the last lap, even though he was battling Nathan JB. He is nowhere on the pace at the moment.
Yeah, certainly. So Nathan JB, you think, of course, this is going to be Masseny Casino. This is the type of corners where that lack of downforce is going to hurt him slightly. Nathan, though, cannot quite get near enough, and of course you can't send it into Mirabel, so he still waits. Timon is covering the line, though. He's not getting up this place, no matter what, and the gap continues to extend. Slash is coming up behind these guys. Nathan pushing him around that hairpin, desperate to get through because he knows the time that he is losing at this stage in the race. We'll be looking to try and make that up. Can't quite do it, and Slash now beginning to hunt these guys down. Up at the front, again, that train nearly fracturing. Boompier has rallied a bit in these last few laps. Now behind Zerima. Zerima, I think, got out of shape through the swimming pool as Tywin picks up a penalty, and his race is quickly slipping away from him at this stage. We've got to look though further back, because things are about to get interesting. Gary now, the pace difference isn't exactly massive, but he is now beginning to get towards the rear wing of Carmentelis. We'll see when these medium guys are going to elect to make that pit stop, but it won't be for a few laps yet at least to ensure those softs can make it. So Gary is chasing them down 1.5 seconds between them. He'll begin to get held back. It won't be by a huge amount, but with Calvin so even on pace, that little bit of hold up is going to be what Calvin needs. Gary though, all he has to do is avoid a mistake. Calvin, I think, is wise enough, hopefully, not to dive Gary. But Gary, now being held back, is going to be under more and more pressure. Calvin will look to apply that. What it could do, the struggling Funky Chicken at this stage, 2.5 seconds down, he's got older tyres, but this little bit of hold up from the train in front may just allow him and Creco back into this fight.
It could definitely help him and Creco indeed get back into the fight here. I don't think there's anyone else really that close that's going to be in the fight. Maybe Peter, but he does have 6 seconds of penalties, which is going to compromise him quite a lot, I reckon. Yeah, the top 4 just keep on staying out. Gary on 1.4 behind Commentalis right now, and he is going to reel them in very soon.
He is just holding back, I think, at this stage. Then he doesn't want to get too close. Calvin is right with him now. 4/10 is the difference. And Funky Chicken is beginning to close in as well. So you're already seeing this. It's being brought into motion. I think Jaco's pace has dropped up at the front now. Zaurima is still all over him, but Bumpier Carmentelis, that gap we saw open a few laps ago, has now closed right back up. So the top 4 now run as one right now, and that gap to Gary now just over 1 second. So he is going to get onto them very, very soon. I don't imagine Gary, from the lead of the race, he and Carmentelis have been famed for their hard wheel-to-wheel racing, but I think those guys aren't going to get into a straight fight here. Gary, I think, is going to try and hold back for as long as he can, but Calvin is going to put that pressure on, try and force Gary into that move. Gary is going to want to hold station here. Calvin, I think, his job is to make sure that Gary is not going to hold station and apply all the pressure he can from McLaren up to the net race leading Red Bull.
Yeah, just one more thing to confirm that Gary is not really pushing. He's almost on 90% ERS coming here through. So, yeah, he is not trying to get close whatsoever at the moment. Calvin is on a decent percentage as well, but I don't think around this track it matters that much really. You can't really overtake anyways. The moment Nathan JB is still stuck behind Simon, and he's built up a decent ERS percentage as well. He is burning it and trying to go for a move around the outer of the time. The thought not gonna work. See, bumps Timon through the corner. Is he gonna be able to do it towards Massinaden? Down the inside, he has a little bit of contact twice. Timon holds ahead and stays in P10 for now. Nathan JB is just gonna be more and more frustrated, and he'll try and get a move on very soon, I reckon.
Yeah, Timon, it's several seconds a lap. The way he is holding back the McLaren, but it's all fair at the moment, then no way he can get through. Calvin picks up a time penalty. That could be very, very important at this stage. The pressure is off Gary for now then. Calvin, though, has got Funky Chicken and Creco within that penalty range at the moment, so those guys looking to try and pick up the pieces. Gary is now firmly getting held back. Carmentelis just in front of him now. They all run in unison at the moment, and right now no real signs of the pit stops coming through from those guys just yet. We'll see if it's going to come through to fruition in the next few laps. You may see now, is Calvin going to drive with a bit more aggression, a bit more almost desperation, knowing he has that penalty on his head. He's been chasing that race win, and now that job of getting the race win has just become a lot tougher. So let's see how that's going to unfold. Nathan JP is trying to get to Timon again, but Timon, despite the damage, he's quick in the crucial corners. Slash is beginning to get held back by this as well. He is 1 second adrift from this pairing as it stands. Timon, you can see the lack of downforce, you can see the understeer, but Nathan cannot get quick and get up to him, because really overtaking at Monaco is dependent on those exits out the slow corners, as I mentioned, like Anthony knows, like the corner coming up here at Portier. You've got to try and get good exits from those corners, and it's hard as the car behind to do that. So Timon, even though he's compromised in terms of speed, if he gets his exits right, really, it's not going to have much impact on whether Nathan JB can get the move done or not. And he gets
As
very
Peter gets in
close. Nathan gets very close on under break. He has to go right over the chicane. Slash right up behind him now. I've got to keep an eye though. The battle for the lead now is beginning to really hot up then. It is now a train stretching almost all the way back to Kriko. Peter, you mentioned, gets another penalty, but he is coming up on these guys as well. Just under 2 seconds adrift of Kriko in front. Kriko, I said he has the race pace, but does he have the track possession to make it work at the moment? No. Still behind Funky, checking behind us. Nathan JB, has he got the run this time? He's through at last on time, and I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that there, but he does get the move done in the end. He runs a little bit wide through Massady. I think Timon is going to throw everything at trying to get back past, and Nathan is slowed up here then. Funky checking is going through Calvin. Calvin's made a mistake. Calvin out of Portier, dropping back, and another blow to his chances in this race. Calvin now with no visible damage, but he drops back down 2 places with the penalty. A man that looked as though he may well be heading for a potential victory now. That climb has just become an awful lot tougher to pull off now, because he now runs 8th on track, still a net P4. He slides the car though, the frustration coming out there. Calvin chasing Gary all the way, but as he just chased him one too hard, he now slips back down to 8th, loses the track position, has a penalty now. Calvin, again, a man that looked so promising in this race, now the chances of even a podium look very slim at this stage.
I think even Nathan JB might have damage. He's not getting away. He's into the pits. Another thing this has caused is the guys on the mediums, Jaco, Sidemet, Bumpy, and Carmentalist, basically have a free pit stop to fall into.
Yes, certainly. That is that huge gap from where Timon has held these guys up, so they can try and come back towards that leading fight. Of course, it's an awful long distance to chase down, but of course we're seeing Gary, who's now trying to fend off Funky Chicken now, as Funky Chicken now closes that gap that has been opened by Calvin's mistake. These guys, what they're doing there, by Gary being held up by these guys, they're keeping that theoretical gap down for when they come out of the pit lane. Presumably on soft tyres, to try and chase these guys down, and that's going to be an incredibly tough task, but they are just making it a bit more feasible. And of course, you mentioned that gap that they've got. There's essentially 2 separate races at this stage as it stands. That Timon has just completely blown this race apart. Again, we mentioned traffic playing a role. We're seeing it now. He's now holding back Slash, and Slash's strategy is now looking a bit dire himself then. So those guys have got that window to box into. They do not box yet though, they stay out. Zanima is a lot closer to Jekyll than what we've seen, but not near enough to make the move. He looks fairly content just sitting behind. Carmentalist looks less content to sit behind Boompier, but still can't get through. Time into the pit lane. Nathan JB has a penalty. Those two might resume their battle. We'll see when Timon re-emerges. So Slash is now in clear air. Timon goes for softs, and I'm going to come to you here quickly as Nathan JB picks up another penalty. Do you think from this point in the race the softs could potentially make it to the end?
I'm going to pause you there. Commenta's looking at the back of Bumpy there. Sorry about that. But he is desperate for a move about here. You're going to say that they were going to make it on the softs or not?
Well, yeah, but do you expect that from this distance the softs can make it to the end and still be quick?
They can, but I think the last 5 or so laps they will be very much struggling so, and it won't be the easy softs. I think Bumpy is the first one in.
Yeah, so I guess these questions are about to get answered then. He dives in, and is it those right wall tyres? It is. So he goes in, and it's hard tyres. It's a wing change as well. That may explain why he looked to be the one that was struggling the most out of those medium starters. So it's hard tyres going on. He must have picked up that damage recently though, and now he has had to change up that strategy. Whereas he going to emerge, of course, that wing fix is not going to help him one bit. He may well emerge behind Slash. He does. So Slash actually gets the jump. He does have penalty Slash to one more than Boompier, but Boompier now, that is not going to help him in the slightest then. So his pursuit of the net leaders looks to be very unlikely at this stage. The gap has opened up now. Carmentalist just under 2 seconds behind. Jaco and Zaunua may well try and bite the bullet very, very soon. They're going to have to try and make that move eventually to get themselves in. Of course, no matter which way you cut it as well. The mediums that we're seeing on the net race leaders, particularly Funky Chicken and Kriko, with the oldest tires of the bunch, those guys will be struggling deeply at the end of the race. Jaco stays out, Zauraba in, so here we go now. We're going to see the strategy begin to unfold then, and it is soft tires going on. So let's see now, he's going to get a nice clean pit stop then. He will emerge, surely, with no one in sight, apart from maybe a lapped Haas. So he is going to emerge now clean air, and we're going to get our first taste then. That undercut's going to come through. You'd imagine that he should easily jump Jaco, but now we're going to see that gap relative to the net leaders. He's going to emerge then, as I mentioned, it's only the lapped Haas that's very close to him. He comes out the pit lane now, Zauraba, and the question is now, 13 seconds, how quickly is that going to come down? The pursuit is on then, XL Zauraba, fresh softs. You'd imagine that undercut's going to work on Jaco, but how well can he chase down that leading quintet now as they all stack up behind Carmen's list?
You'd imagine if Zauraba can catch up to the train, he would easily get Calvin and Peter on penalties already. So that's a net P4 he's in. Looking like a very good race from both Red Bulls at the moment. A P1, P4 possibly.
Of course, still a long way to go, so we'll see how things are going to unfold. Funky Chicken runs in that position for on track at the moment, up behind Gary, but you imagine Gary is going to be released fairly soon. Into the pit lane comes Jaco. Carmental is still opting to stay out then, and this is only going to help Zauraba and also Jaco. Now let's see, Peter has also come into the pit lane, and it's actually a wing fix for Jaco, so he did have damage in the end, and that held back those guys even more. This is all playing into Zauraba's hands pretty much then. He's going to jump those guys fairly easily out of the pits, and now that hunt is on. He's already pulled back at least 2 seconds on the guys in front, so the gap is now coming down, and Carmentless staying out is only going to help him. Carmentless is holding all these guys back. Gary's frustrated, he wants to get going because they're all stacking up behind him. He's got enough cars between him and Zauraba that I don't think he has to worry too much, but he will not be liking this one bit. He wants Carmentless out the way, he wants that free reign, but Carmentless holding back all these guys is only allowing Zauraba to get even closer.
Yeah, it does. So obviously, I think they'll be working together quite a bit, and then maybe Gary will try and slow up actually the pack for Zauraba, and that way they can get themselves up into a 1-2 position. But that will be very difficult to do, obviously. It's still Monaco at the end of the day. But there is an interesting strategy play to be played here.
Yeah, that's something I didn't even consider. That's a good point. Is Carmentless going to pit? Yes, he does. From the lead of the race, he will emerge fair, I imagine, just being between Zauraba and J. Cole. J. Cole, of course, with that wing fix to his name. So the now the tire change comes in and Carmentless is away. So now they all run forward then as one in the lead pack. Gary, Funky Chicken, Kriko, Calvin with just under 10 seconds to Zauraba. That cap is coming down at a fair rate of knots. Carmental's not far in front of Jaco, but he does just about get out in front of the Mercedes, and he's going to try and burn his way down the track as well and maybe get towards these guys because the pace, Gary looks to be trying to get away at the moment, and he is still very high on battery, so he's got that pace to deploy if he needs to, and he is now using that battery, so he's trying to get away here. But Zauraba, that pace is remarkable. We're seeing the softs come in. The question is though, the softs go off quickly, they can overheat. Can he keep that level of pace up? He has got an almost magic touch on tires, but he's going to need this now to keep that, sustain that rate of challenge. He is coming through now, but we've already seen those softs, they go off quickly, and Zauraba knows he's got to make the most of them now.
Yeah, he's absolutely going to push the hell out of him and catch up to those leaders. And a funny thing, as soon as Carmental pulled into the pits, I saw Gary absolutely bolting it on his ERS. Calvin's in.
Ooh, does Calvin...
That damage, yep.
So Calvin then, again, we saw from that banker lap in quality, he looked like one of the fastest guys out there. He is to the pit lane and just blow after blow in this race. Of course, the race has been blown wide open, so he should still try and secure fairly decent points, but he's going to be out behind Slash, Boompy and Peter with an awful lot of work to do to try and get himself back and salvage good points out of this race. He emerges in P10. Gap, Kriko, Zauraba, 8.4 seconds, coming down all the time now as they continue to lap their way through, and Gary has just about broke Funky Chicken. Funky Chicken and Kriko are going to be those ones to watch though near the end, because they have pushed the envelope most on tyres. I'm not saying that you're necessarily looking at punctures here, but you are certainly seeing, especially at a track like Monaco, Funky Chicken picks up a penalty. So that continues to evolve things in this race. Kriko looks to jump him out at this stage, and Zonema will look to try and get in range. And this Funky Chicken is all over the road through the swimming pool. He holds it together, but that is a blow to his race, and he could not have afforded then. Kriko just merely has to stay with him, and P2 will be his. And you have to say for Gary, even more pressure is taken off. He's not put a foot wrong in this race, and with 11 laps to go, sorry, 10 laps to go I should say, he comes over the line, and with another car with a penalty as a buffer, his teammate being the only guy that has a significant pace advantage over him that can still get to him, you have to say XL Gary just looks oh so comfortable. And right now, is there anything that can stop him other than himself?
Yeah, I was going to say himself, because as Funky Chicken can pick up a penalty, so can Gary, you know? So you never know what's going to happen, and they have to keep focus whatsoever. Calvin goes into the pits once again. It's damage again.
Surely
Interesting.
not. Oh, okay.
Yes, he does.
Wow. That is and somehow that gap has been bridged then, so he actually drops. He will drop behind time, and then he will be still in front of Nathan JB. But yeah, Calvin, from being in the hunt for the win, it has just turned into a complete nightmare for the McLaren in 11th place. Looks fairly soon up, although he can actually chase down if he can on Timon, but it's going to be a very difficult ask, especially because Timon's not on bad tyres himself. That gap, Kriko to Zonema, coming down all the time. It's under 6 seconds now. Zonema, you'd imagine he's chasing at least a podium at this stage. It's very unlikely that someone like Zonema is going to be picking up a penalty or making a mistake. Not impossible, granted. We will see. But Gary, I have just noticed, are there a bit of nerves beginning to come into play? He has burned a lot of that battery. So is Funky Chicken, as we're seeing Peter and Bubby going side by side and in the wall. I think they are still going at it. Tragedy knows that to the inside, and Bubby comes to nearly a complete stop to avoid the contact. They do come through it, and Peter gets through. There is damage then on that floor. You can see the end plate. Oh my word! Again, nearly coming to a dead stop. You can see how much the damage affects him. So Bumpier is going to drop all the way back. Slash has went to the pit lane. He's going to re-emerge, and Timon then somehow looks to try and pull himself back. Really, you have to say, outside of these top 6, everyone else has had an incredibly scruffy race tonight.
Yeah, it's not been looking good for most of these drivers, I've got to be honest. But yeah, that's kind of what you expect with Monaco. No safety cars to recover either, thus far. So, yeah, interesting dynamic, and it shows that the cleanest drivers at this point, the ones that have kept their nose clean, are getting a good result.
Yeah, I didn't mention though, Gary, the nerves are going to be starting to kick in at this stage now. Funky Chicken is still with him on those older tyres. Kriko has stayed in it. Bumpier penalty. Again, it just goes from bad to worst for the Ferrari man. And we'll see how the rest of this is going to unfold. Nathan JB as well, penalty. So you see the penalties and the mistakes just stack up. Bumpier has somehow managed to pick up another penalty just a few corners later, so I'm not exactly sure how that is unfolded. Peter to the pit lane. So he is actually serving a stop and go? No, is that just a graphical glitch, or is that stop and go? No, it is a stop and go. So he is going to get those tyres and that front wing fixed, and he is going to drop back. Bumpier is to the pit lane as well. So Timon, things have really opened up now for Timon. Somehow after the race he's had, he now runs in a fairly comfortable P7 on track at the moment. Slash is trying to chase him down, but hasn't got to him just yet. Those guys, Slash actually with one extra penalty, so it's a very tough ask for him at this stage. Let's keep an eye, though, on how things are unfolding up at the front. Gary, Funky Chicken, Kriko with Zonema chasing them down. Zonema is just now... The tyres do look to be suffering a bit now, but he is now just about within that penalty range of Funky Chicken. So Funky Chicken now will be beginning to lose out from that penalty. The real question is now Kriko and Zonema. Kriko has put up with pressure from behind from the likes of Calvin throughout this race. He's managed to sustain from that. He's been chasing Funky Chicken all day long. Hasn't got through. Now though, he's got a car on quicker tyres coming up behind him. Zonema, he'll look to try and get this through, but Kriko, again, Zonema is not the kind of driver that's going to dive you. Kriko, all he has to do, like I mentioned earlier, get good exits out the corners, keep it out the walls, and he should still be fine. The pressure's going to be mounting. The ease is going to be fading away. He'll be, of course, anxious that he makes a mistake. but Zenoma chases him down. All Kriko has to do is keep it between the walls. He doesn't have to keep chasing Funky Chicken. He just has to drive smooth, keep it clean, and P2 should be his, but Zenoma coming up behind him. That fight is going to be far from over, and Carmenzalis isn't far behind as well. As they begin to get held up, Carmenzalis could get himself in on the action as well late in the day.
Yeah, and that's gonna get worse for Funky Chicken at that point, because he's the only one with a pin. And yeah, Carmenzalis has been gaining on Zuidema as well, subsequently, as he has the fresher tires over him. I think the gap at the pit stop out of the pits was 6.5 seconds. He's half that at this point, so he could be on the back of him towards the end as well, especially as Zuidema's progress will be stopped now.
We've got yellows further down the field. I think that is Peter that's going off slightly. He does recover the car though, and looks to still be in fairly decent condition. P10 at the moment, running low on fuel though. That yellow fuel light has come on. Doesn't look to be any worry for our race leaders. Of course, we saw Mr. BT heartbreakingly lose out in a win on Portugal due to fuel. So you do have to just keep half an eye on that. Make sure that these things don't work against you. Gary, Funky Chicken, Kriko, and now Zuidema is right there with them. So this is now how things are going to unfold. He has now cut that gap down tenfold, and he is all over the rear wing of Emily Kriko. To the pit lane is Slash and Calvin. Those guys may have picked up yet more damage in this race. They will re-emerge, but we cannot look away, of course. We are going to see Zuidema try and pull off one of the most impossible tasks, nearly impossible tasks, as Boompier is in the wall at Santa Bot, so the mistakes, again, keep piling up. I think some of these drivers have essentially let their races go at this point. But now as we head on now, 5 laps to go, Kriko's up behind Funky Chicken. I did see 2 penalties there. Kriko's made a mistake! Kriko makes a mistake and Zeno's through! Kriko out of Santa Bot, gets the car out of shape. I mentioned he just has to get good exits, and Zenoma takes full advantage of that now. P3 on the road. So Kriko, the pressure mounted, and in the end he just cracks. The grip is fading from those mediums, 31 laps on them, and in the end it was just a stretch too far for him. The pace is fading, and now you can sense Carmenzalis trying to get in on this now, chasing down on Kriko. Gary looks safe enough now. Boompier has gone into the wall again. It's all kicking off in these last few laps. Kriko, I can't believe it, makes a mistake, and now Zenoma is outside, end it to the chicane, and Funky Chicken breaks early. Zenoma is to P2. It's a Red Bull 1-2. Now let's see how this is going to unfold. Gary is not going to want to let this go. Is Zenoma going to protect him? Is Zenoma going to go for the win? Let's see. Boompier's gone off yet again then. He's going to let these guys through. But what are these guys going to do, I wonder? It is now, there's a car backwards. I can't even begin to comprehend what is happening out there. But Zenoma with 2 places in 1 lap, are we going to see team orders here, or are we going to see a fight between these 2 Red Bulls?
I can't imagine him wanting to risk this 1-2 for who wins it. Meantime, Carmenzalis is on to the back of Kriko, and this goes for a podium as well.
Yep.
Carmenzalis from the back of the grid is absolutely just stayed out of trouble and managed to get himself into this position. Such a him thing to do, once again. Let's see if we can get Kriko.
Carmenzalis is one of the best overtakers on the track, and he worked his magic around Monaco then, up behind Emily Kriko. He's still using Funky Chicken. He's got that DRS to defend himself. Crucially, heading towards Santa Vot, but Carmenzalis is burning that battery then, up towards the chicane. Surely not. No, he does think better of it in the end. You don't want to lunge into there, and I think he does in the end rethink that. Gary and Zenoma running parallel on the track. Gary has led this pretty much from lights to flag, but Zenoma has made a terrific charge and is now on the back of his teammate. Again, you said they don't want to risk it, but he is very, very close. He doesn't look like he's protecting Gary anyway. So let's just see then. Watch, is there any battery being deployed? They're both deploying their battery. It looks as though, with 3 laps to go, there's no team orders here. These Red Bull guys are both going all out for the race victory, Verstappen.
I don't know if this is the smartest idea, but it's definitely the most entertaining one. We'll have to see if Zuidema is all over Gary at this point. I'm not sure. He's not going to be the one to dive it completely out of nowhere and cause some sort of crash, but is he going to try and go for the overtake if he can? I wonder.
Oh, he's nearly making contact. Again, maybe it isn't the case, but I mean, he's sitting so close to him, he's burning that battery. I think the gloves are off between these two. So Gary now under probably more pressure than he's been under at any point in the race. Zanuma trying to put it on him, Morezi. We will see Nolan is going off just ahead of them into the chicane. As Zanuma cuts the inside, and they both get around Nolan then, and a bit of a heart-and-mouth moment for both of those guys. Kriko just getting through. He's still just in front of Carmentalus with just over 2 to go. He's holding on to that P4, but he's slipping towards the edge of that DRS. He cannot afford to lose that then, or Carmentalus will surely pounce with much more grip coming from the Red Bull soft tyres. Gary has just about managed to re-establish a bit of a gap at the start of the penultimate lap, and he is burning the last of that battery. This is certainly still not over yet, so let's just see then. Carmentalus behind Kriko, 2 really important battles to watch out for P1 and P3, and look at how close Zanuma is then. He's got more battery. Gary has burned that battery all the way through then. You can't imagine these guys are not fighting, and they're going to go all out. Gary, Zanuma, Kriko, Carmentalus, Funky chicken in the middle with a penalty. It's all kicking off potentially in these last 2 laps. Will we see any manoeuvres late in the day? There could be another one way further back. Timon has got Peter all over him, but I don't think we can pay too much attention to that. With a potential showdown between the 2 Red Bulls, we will see. Zanuma's got the battery. He's got DRS to use. Gary with aging tyres, with less battery, with everything against him but that all-important track position. Just over 1 lap to go now, and the tension builds and the pressure mounts. And will we see a potential battle between these 2? Are they playing as a team, or are they going at it with each other? Let's see then, with just over 1 lap to go at Monaco, and a potential fight for the win here. Let's see, punching off of Anthony Noget. A bit of oversteer for Zanuma is going to set him back, and Gary survives over the line, so he will lead going through the rest of the last lap. But this is not over yet. Zanuma deploying the battery in the slipstream, but he switches off, and Gary using everything he has left to just about survive the run-up Beau Rivage to the end of the first sector. He still leads Zanuma then with 2 sectors left to go here in Monaco. Kriko is also resisting Carmentalus all the way to the line. Carmentalus trying as he might. He looks inside of the hairpin, but it doesn't quite come off. Kriko nearly diving out of the way, so fearful of a Carmentalus move, but it doesn't come off then. Now, half a lap to go. Gary still holding on again. Oversteer Zanuma. He's not holding back in the slightest then, but he's too far back surely. Heading in to the Nouvelle chicane. He looks to the inside trying to pressure Gary, but Gary, so many times he's been in this position, so calm and composed under pressure. As we head now, coming towards the final sector. Surely Gary can't lose this now, as Zanuma sits almost on his rear wing now, heading through to the final few corners. Zanuma nearly loses it, and surely that's it. Gary has resisted all the pressure, all the tension, as they head now on the run to the line. XL Gary will fend off his teammate Zanuma for the win in Monaco. Gary wins it, Zanuma second, Kriko holds on to third. And what was in the end a thrilling conclusion. Jacob barely pips his teammate to fifth. Just 700ths of a second between those guys. Further down the track, there's another battle going on. It's all coming through at the end of this race. Peter is right with time, and this won't matter in terms of the overall positions. Peter with too many penalties. He sits right behind time, and Timon just covers the line as he really should. But he runs way through the chicane, and they come together! They come together! Peter taps Timon, and it goes through! I don't think it's going to matter in the grand scheme of things that Timon still in front of Nathan, but he's got penalties, he's got wing damage, sorry. And so now he loses that ground. Timon with another penalty. Nathan stacks it into the wall. What an ending to this Monaco Grand Prix. Peter, with a bit of a controversial head, will cross the line in 7th, but he will lose all those places. Then Nathan will come up behind him. So Timon will just about hold on to that 7th place. Nathan 8th, Peter 9th, slash 10th, and it's Nolan Larkin rounding out the points. Wow, that was quite an ending. We didn't see the move for the lead, but we definitely saw a bit of tension in that Red Bull camp. Carmentalus just misses out on a podium. Great drive from him from the back of the field. It was a Monaco race that was building up, and wow, drama plenty, you have to say, at the end of that one.
Yeah, absolutely thrilling at the end. Not what I was expecting whatsoever. But yeah, Zanuma got through after that mistake from Kriko, and that just built up even more the tension between the Red Bull guys. I'm curious to hear their sides of the story as well. But yeah, interesting race.
Well, that was yeah. I mean, it was a bit of a slow burner. We saw a lot of mistakes throughout the field, as you'd probably expect here at Monaco. We'll run through the results now. Gary wins from Zoudema. These guys we'll see what they say, but I don't think that there was any holding back. They were both going for that race win. Gary, though, does hold on from Zoudema. Krico, he did in the end maybe throw away a P2, but great under pressure to fend off Carmentalist all the way to the line. Carmentalist, though, terrific recovery drive, 19th to 4th in the end from that poor qualifying. He recovers somewhat. Jaco rounds at the top 5, and Funky Check, and those guys are really the only guys that had clean races. Timon, Nathan JB, Peter, and Slash last on the lead lap. Nolan and Larkin round at the points finishers. Calvin, Coxey, Tebos the last of the finishers, and then it's Boompier, Prime, Forza Brendan, and Scream that didn't quite see out the checkered flag. That was probably just about what you'd expect from a Monaco race, really. Drama near the end, you have to say, but quite a lot of incident further down the field. But yeah, you see that contrast, nearly a full minute gap between Funky Chicken and Timon. But Gary, you have to say, despite everything that was thrown at him, again, I mentioned it in qualifying, and I'll mention it again now. If you're going to try and get these guys in for an interview, by the way, thank you very much. Gary, no matter what they threw at him, under pressure, he was absolutely faultless tonight.
Yeah, he absolutely withstood all sorts of pressure he got from multiple drivers throughout that race. In the beginning, obviously, Calvin, and then Funky Chicken for a while, and at the end, Saitama as well. Just fantastically driven by him.
Yeah, certainly can't wait to get his perspective on that. Hopefully we can get all of these guys in for some interviews. We can hear from them very, very soon. So, yeah, that was quite an enjoyable Monaco Grand Prix. Again, it was maybe a bit of a slow burner, but there was always something to talk about. The race was ever evolving. This is your second race back for Zapp, and how are you finding it so far? Actually, we'll just hold back on that because we now have a race winner, XL Gary, and I guess we'll get things kicked off straight away. Gary, my word. Just talk us through the emotions, because that looked like 39 laps of sheer tension all the way through.
I am sweating an awful lot right now. Yeah, it was mental. Everyone just behind me kept making mistakes, it seemed, so it made my life a little bit easier. But yeah, that was ridiculous, especially towards the end, because my rear tyres were really bad. Because I had pitted so early, but the tyres were dead at the end. So thankfully managed to keep it in a straight line, unlike a few other people, and finally got a win on mirror on track without any time penalties, anything like that. So it's been a long time. And pole as well, so I'm just buzzing right now.
Yeah, certainly. I guess this is a question to both yourself and Zonoma. What were the comms like in those last few laps? Because we thought you guys were going to play the team game, but from the way you guys were driving, didn't look that way.
No, definitely not. Dan basically said, if I have a chance, I'm overtaking you. So that was everything you need to know, which is more in his right to do so. And also him and Neo also have a bet about if Dan wins the race, Neo has to get a tattoo. So so I had Neo screaming in my ear that I had to win as well. So like it was a lot of pressure on me those last few laps, because I felt like I had it. And then Dan just got past Funky Chicken and Krieger very, very quickly, a lot quicker than I thought he would. So that had me under a lot of pressure. But thankfully, we managed to survive. There was no Ricardo Verstappen up back here or anything like that. It was civil.
Just about civil. So yeah, of course, that's your second podium in the season, your first race victory, and a major catapult up in the points, as we said. Looking at maybe the next few rounds in particular then, Britain next up, couldn't get a much more dissimilar track to Monaco. How do you rate your chances going forward?
I hate this calendar, to be honest. Absolutely hate it. There's not a good track on it, or there's very few good tracks on it. So yeah, I'll just do what I've been doing. I think I've been quite unlucky last couple of races. So if I can win at Monaco, if I can stick on pole at Monaco, I can do it anywhere. So that's what we'll go with, the mentality for the rest of the season. And I mean, if I have to battle Aiden for a championship when he's starting last every race, it shouldn't be too hard. So we'll see how Silverstone goes next week.
Right, I guess to round off from Gary, I'll hand it back over to you, Verstappen. You got anything for a race winner?
Yeah, actually, well, first of all, congratulations. Absolutely fantastically driven that. Other than that, after the pit stops, how much were you holding back? Because I didn't feel like you were catching the train of J. Cole, and we know he had damage,
Yeah.
like, from lap 8 or something onwards. How much were you holding back there?
I was holding back an awful lot. I felt like I was driving very slow. Because once I caught up, and I think Neo told me the gap was like 4 seconds to J. Cole, and I just said to myself, okay, I don't need to overtake anyone here because the gap isn't big. They're not going to catch up to me. Or I didn't think they were going to catch up to me at the end of the race. Dan managed to, but yeah, I was holding back a lot, and I think you could see once Aiden pitted, I could pull the gap a little bit. I pulled away a little bit, and then yeah, I just went back into conserve mode. I don't think I pushed. I probably pushed for like 5 laps that whole race, to be honest. I was, as Prost would say, whatever Prost is saying, it's like finishing first, like in the slowest way possible. That's basically what I did today. So yeah, it's Monaco. I did the hard job putting on Paul. So all I had to do was keep it out of the barriers, and I was going to win. And thankfully, I did.
Yeah, you absolutely nailed that one.
Thank you.
I think the manner in which you drove that race, I think, is reminiscent of the Irish lifestyle. To be honest, well done.
In a tractor, getting the potatoes.
Congrats, man. Well driven. And yeah, I guess we'll now continue proceedings. I don't think we'll get Creco in here, but I guess we'll move on here from our second place finisher, Mr. XL Zanima. Zanima, man, just want to hear from you. Just looking more at that final stint, just how fun was that charge to the field?
I'll start at the start. I thought it was over after quali. Like, I butchered all my soft laps, and my medium lap was also really bad. So I was like, oh, it's over now. Then on lap 1 I had damage, and it was really slight damage that I had the whole race, but it was still damage, and then I could like hardly keep up with Jack at the start. For some reason, it didn't feel that bad on the softs, the damage. So the pace was actually pretty good, even though there was damage. But yeah, like I didn't expect. Like, I was expecting to be quite quick, but not like that quick. And I wasn't expecting to catch everybody so quick, and even overtaking. Well, Crico made a mistake. It was an easy overtake, and I think Chicken Yui had a pen, so he didn't really fight it hard. But yeah, the last stint was quite interesting and a lot better than I thought it would be.
Well, to be honest, I was expecting you here, so I guess there is that has been fulfilled. Maybe not in the way that I quite expected, but I guess on that last little exchange with Gary near the end, with Neo shouting in both of your ears, which must have been quite an experience. Just what was it like then? Were you trying in any which way to just put any bit of pressure you could on our race winner?
Oh, definitely. When I was second, Gary was like, "Oh, bring it home, boys, bring it home," because of the bet, because he didn't want me to win. And I didn't really say much at first, because I didn't know if I had the pace, because my softs were gonna die out. And then I told Gary, like he said himself, like, if there is an opportunity, I'm still gonna try and overtake. Like, I'm not gonna do anything stupid, but I'm gonna overtake if there's a chance. And also, at some point, I was just playing with him because I saw him derating. I was like, "Oh, Gary, you're derating! I'm coming!" So it was quite fun the last stint, but like I wasn't gonna do anything stupid. But if there was an opportunity, or if there was a slight mistake from Gary or something, I definitely would have overtaken him.
Well, yeah, well, that was a fantastic drive to the field, it must be said. Looking into the future, next race at Silverstone, you've had some success around there in the past. How do you really rate your chances heading through there? Because I know that maybe it doesn't suit you as well as Monaco, but how do you see things going on?
I mean, nowadays everybody's good at Silverstone. Like, I think the field's going to be very close, and it's just going to be full of trains. So I think it's just whoever gets a good quali will have a good chance at the race win. So that's going to be a problem for me, I think. But you never know with safety cars and stuff. I might have a lucky race, but I think if it's a straight-on race, it's going to be hard to get on the podium, I think.
Well, let's see if it's going to turn out in that regard. I guess I'll hand it back over to you, Verstappen. Anything more for our second place finisher here at Monaco?
Oh, once again, congratulations to your P2 as well. how do you rate your chances going into the championship for the rest of the season?
If it goes like the first few races, I think it's going to be hard. But I do think that I actually have the pace and consistency normally to maybe fight for the title, or I should be able to fight for the title. But we'll see. Like I think I can win it, but I'm definitely not the favorite.
I think it's quite hard to pick a favourite at this point.
There's a lot of people that can win it.
It's unfolding in ways that we couldn't have anticipated. I don't think we'll be able to get Kriko into here for interviews, so we may well just have to leave it at that. Thanks to both of you, and congrats as well for the driving out there today. On the track, the field, or certainly you, the 6 guys at the front, put on a really good show for us all the way through. Just coming to you, Mr. QVR Verstappen, just some final thoughts to round up the stream, and if anyone, can you pick yourself a driver of the day?
I'm gonna have to go with Gary for driver of the day. Get that one senior season, you know.
Oh.
I'll have to see how that goes. Looking forward. No, it was a very enjoyable race actually, and more than I expected from Monaco. And overall, throughout the field, there's a couple of battles that was a bit questionable, but overall, it is Monaco. There's always going to be a little bit of questionable driving here and there. Overall, it was a good show. Yeah, really enjoyed that. I'm looking forward to the next rounds in Britain.
Yeah, of course, Britain, the mother of all DRS trains, I think, is what we can expect from Britain, unless it's a wet race, which we had back in Season 5. We will see how that is going to take place, but I think that is going to be just about it for tonight then at round 5 of the season. We are just under a third of the way through, so we are progressing now nicely through the calendar. It's hard to say how this is going to affect the championship, but I think it's going to throw drivers into this that we didn't even perceive at first. But yeah, I think that's going to be just about it for all the action here tonight. Just to let her run through, of course, please tune in for next week's race. Of course, Fridays you can look for the PC League at 6:30 sorry, UK time. You can see Division 1, 3 and 4, and then at 8:10 UK time you can see Divisions 2 and 5. Division 2, of course, covered by myself and Miss QVR Verstappen once again. But I think that's going to be it then for Monaco. Again, a surprisingly engaging race for the famous straight circuit in Monte Carlo, but I think that's going to be it. So for myself and Miss QVR Verstappen, it is goodbye for now, and until next time, we'll see you later.